A That's Not Canon Productions podcast.
Hi there, and welcome to another midweek guest episode of Oof, Right in the Childhood. Today, I'm joined by Emily Matchett and Amanda Lorenzo from a brand new podcast called Legends, a superhero story. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. Very excited.
Super excited.
Super excited. My name is Emily Matchett. I am a player on and the editor for Legends, a Superhero Story.
And I'm Amanda Lorenzo. I'm one of the players for Legends, a Superhero Story.
Excellent. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your podcast before we hop in, and then you can tell us a little bit more at the end.
Sure thing. So Legends is an actual play podcast using the new tabletop role-playing game system that my dad and my brother wrote. They've been working on it for the past 3 years. It's super customizable, an RPG with different, I think there's over 100 superpowers to choose from type thing. And yeah, so we're actual play that for that game. There are 4 of us players and then the GM. And it's super fun.
Well, I can't wait. I'm actually DMing my very first D&D tomorrow night with my friends. We're recording this on October 30th, and I am doing a horror-based one-shot Edgar Allan Poe story for my friends. So
That is so cool. That is
It'll
so
be
awesome.
something. I'm like, guess how I'm gonna wet my feet. Yay!
Awesome.
Anyway, so enough about new superheroes. Today we might be talking about one of the original superheroes, Peter Pan. And so the title of the episode that's airing on Monday is called You Don't Remember This One, Right? And I have to ask, when was the last time you guys saw this before you watched it for the podcast?
Oh God.
I watched the non-Disney musical last year because I actually directed a production of Peter Pan last year, but it's not the Disney version. But the last time I saw the Disney cartoon was probably a very long time ago.
The last time I watched the Disney cartoon was probably 3 years ago, because my friend and I, we went to Disney World, so we were like, let's do a Disney marathon, and we watched a bunch of the old Disney movies.
So I guess the question is, did you guys remember this right?
There were definitely parts that I was like, wow, that doesn't age well, but and other parts that I was like, oh, it's exactly how I remember it, and other parts that like came rushing back.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt when I watched it for the first time in probably 20 years. I was actually also a musical fan of Peter Pan. I had a very old 1960s recording of, I think it was Mary Martin as Peter Pan when I was a kid.
That's amazing. I had the Kathy Rigby on VHS that I used to watch like religiously. And then I saw the show, they toured it to the PNE a couple years ago. And by a couple years ago, I mean 5 years ago, as I realize as I say that. But they toured it with Kathy Rigby, and it was the exact same. It was like watching the VHS, but like live, and it was spectacular. It was
Oh, my
so cool.
heart. So did you know that Walt Disney played Peter Pan in his school's version of the musical?
No way.
I think I did know that, but that's just because I like to read the IMDb trivia. I'll scan through that as I go.
Yeah, he was so taken with the musical when he was a kid that he just kind of like literally became Peter Pan. And like he was Peter Pan in his High School Musical. He tried to get the very first Peter Pan he saw on stage to come watch Peter Pan, and she refused, and he got really grumpy about it.
Oh no.
Aww.
Yeah.
I
That
would be
makes a lot
grumpy
of
too.
sense. I would be grumpy, yeah.
100%.
You inspired me, come on.
That makes a lot of sense though, because like Walt Disney definitely like didn't want to grow up, I think.
No, I really don't think he did. I've been looking at more and more I'm seeing he just really wanted to stay in like the 1900s when he was just like a little kid, and that seemed fine to him. The best question is, why were y'all so excited to talk about Peter Pan? Was it your superhero love, or was it something else?
Well, for me, it's definitely like the connection that I have like with the musical, having like grown up with it. And then I just did the show last year. And then also like every time you go to Disneyland, I feel like Peter Pan is like one of the most fun characters to interact with.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
hilarious. I love him.
He bumped into me once and just called me an ugly girl and like ran away. And I was like,
him.
oh wow, celebrity, wow.
I've been touched by Peter Pan. This is great.
That's so good.
Yeah. For me, I had this like huge crush on Peter Pan when I was growing up. He was just like my favorite character growing up. And yeah, meeting Peter Pan at Disneyland is one of my favorite things to do.
You know, I think it was really funny that like the modern version of Tinkerbell is like so how do we put this, positive?
Yep.
And like you go and you're like, I'm meeting Tinkerbell, and you completely forget she tried to totally
Oh,
kill a
yeah.
whole bunch of
Swears
people.
like a sailor in the books. It's
Oh, she's awful. Yeah, the book is. I read the book last year as well, and I didn't finish it. I'll be upfront with that. But like, like the characters are awful in the book. This is like absolutely terrible.
Decided to never read again. Moving on. Yeah, so when I was watching it, I kept going, this is exactly how I remember it. Oh, that is nothing how I remember it. Oh, this is exactly how I remember it. That's basically how I did the whole time through, especially the first time I rewatched it when we got Disney Plus.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Definitely doing a lot of like the older Disney movies, watching with Disney Plus and getting that. Oh wow, that's not at all how I remember it from when I was a child.
Why?
1950s? Why did you do this to me?
Yes, exactly
100%.
that.
Well, I mean, like a lot of our things from the 1950s aren't always great. I think
Yeah,
we
there's
can all agree with that.
There's definitely a lot of things that did not age well. And it's unfortunate because they hold like a lot of nostalgia, but it's good that they didn't age well because it means that society is moving forward a little bit.
You know, that's kind of my attitude too. Is like I like to be able to go, hey, you know what? This is offensive now, and that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, go ahead, Emily.
I was just saying, being able to recognize it.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Something cool that we realized when we were watching last week was that Disney actually put up a warning before the movie being like, oh, just so you know, some of the things that you may see, they're not cool now.
They could have been better. Yeah, I saw that
They're
too.
not so cool. Yeah, so we found that really interesting, and it's like, oh, okay, so Disney knows what's up.
And they're acknowledging it, which is good, instead of just letting it live.
What's really interesting is that that's only gone up in the past, I want to say 3 weeks.
Really?
Because I watch these pretty constantly, as you do when you're making a podcast about them. And so I watched Peter Pan originally probably about 4 months ago, because originally I was just kind of writing reactions to these on my wall, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh wow, what is this? And then when I rewatched it this week, it had that warning, but like there was no warning when I watched, oh gosh, what was the last one that I watched that I went, oh no, what was this racist stereotype? Oh, I mean, like none of the package films had anything on them, and that was where I only watched those like a month ago. So it's very, very recent.
Interesting.
For this, and I really did appreciate it. I say that in my episode. I'm like, no one wants these to just disappear. We'd like you to acknowledge that could have been better.
For sure. Oh yeah, that's interesting that it's so recent, but yeah, it's good that it's definitely good that it's happening.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if they're gonna do it, better late than never.
Yeah.
And with the political climate in the States right now, it's important that they're doing that right now, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. And if you go on the Stories Matter website that they mentioned, they actually have explanations for why this is on this movie for many of the movies. I did notice they didn't specifically speak to like Lady and the Tramp, but I think that one's pretty obvious. But there are like lines that they've highlighted. They're like, this was wrong, and we should have never written these lyrics into a song, and things like that. And so it does show that the Disney company is growing and trying to change with the world.
That's good.
I like that they've got like those resources as well as like almost like an educational tool as well, like for like myself as like I am a teacher, so like a lot of times like these shows will come up. Like I said, like I directed Peter Pan last year and it came up and there were some alterations to the script that were already made, but like of course you could do way more. But it's good that they're using things that you could making these things that you could use as resources.
Right. And when I started this, my father-in-law was like, why would you tell people to not watch Disney movies? I was like, that is absolutely the opposite of what I'm saying. I'm saying when when you're watching Peter Pan with your 6-year-old and they show what makes the red man red, you pause and you go, so none of this is good.
Yes.
All of this is wrong and it hurt people. And let's watch the rest of the great movie play.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh.
I was reading the lyrics recently and I was like, wow, no, this is not cool at all.
None of this is cool.
I when I was younger, I'd be like dancing to that song, and now I read it back and I'm like, wow, no, no, this is not okay.
Yeah. It's just one of those things. And it was like, I think I just like erased that straight out of my brain completely. And then like, so my husband came home and he was like, okay, what movie did you watch today? Because he knew what I was doing. I was like, I watched Peter Pan. And he's like, oh no, that went badly for you, didn't it? And I was like, it went badly. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting also because like we watched Return to Neverland like immediately after just because it was there. And they don't have any of that. They made a lot of edits to the scenery of Neverland in the 2002 Return to Neverland.
I heard that I haven't watched that one yet, but I think it was released in theaters, so I will be doing that one eventually. And if not, I'll eventually do all the sequels that were direct to video, just doing the main ones originally. But I know they're also talking about doing a release of Peter Pan live action, as they are doing with all the rest. And so I will be interested to see what happens with that.
Yeah, I think that the problem is that I or not the problem, but like I like reading the book and everything. Like it really, I think, is a good story that just it needs to be updated. I think that it would probably be incredibly cool to update it properly, to have that kind of diversity and that representation in a more positive, less stereotypical way.
Well, and I completely agree. I was just kind of thinking about how cool would it be to have the Native American band on Neverland and treat them with the respect that they are due, because like that would be a really great way to retcon that.
Yeah, because it's such an interesting, I think, storyline, especially. It'll be interesting to see with the live action what they do as well, because they seem to be taking a lot of the more modern day live actions in the more book accurate direction, which of course for Peter Pan is much darker. It'll be interesting to see if they do any of that.
Much darker, but also better in some way, please.
Yes. Update it to 2020, but they put the adult darker spin on it type of a thing.
Ooh, I would love that.
That would be really cool. I would love that. Yeah. And I mean, that means they don't have to change Tinkerbell at all. Be dark.
Yeah. I would like to see a version of Peter Pan where, well, in the original stories, he was actually the villain, right? Or am I...
I want to take a moment to thank my supporters on Patreon. Supporters on Patreon help me cover hosting fees and upgrade my equipment while being able to choose to promote small businesses. There are a few changes this month. As of now, all supporters starting at the Whistle While I Work level, or $1 a month, get an ad-free version of every episode 1 day early. Fairy godmothers like Jason and Mixie at the $5 level still get a bonus episode on the first of every month. This month, I explore Mary Poppins in depth, from Walt badgering a woman for the rights she didn't want to give to possible rape culture moments. Mary Poppins is practically perfect in every way. So come over and hear everything you didn't want to know about Mary Poppins. If you'd like to become a patron, you can search the show over at Patreon, or you can follow the link in the show notes or on my website.
Hey there, I'm Tara.
And I'm Jessica, and together we co-host the podcast 3 Spooked Girls.
If you love the paranormal
Or murder.
join us on Mondays for full-length episodes where we discuss our favorite paranormal stories and true crime cases.
And join us again on Thursdays for our mini-sodes called Stabby Snippets, where we tell you all about true crimes happening in the news.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, wherever the hell else you listen to your pods at. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook by using the handle @3SpookedGirls.
Come and hang out with us and get your spooky on while we scare the hell out of you.
The 3 Spooked Girls.
Oh yeah, Peter Pan's like a sociopath. He's
Yeah.
a very not great human.
So I would like to see a version of Peter Pan where we see that instead of the hero.
It's
I think
in
that'd be
reading the
interesting.
book. It's an interesting book because there really, I don't think, is a hero.
Yeah.
Say like because everyone is super flawed in the book.
Mhm.
Is always an interesting look at things.
So rather than Peter Pan possibly being the first superhero, is he the first like anti-superhero, like the first Deadpool?
Yeah, yeah. He's like the first Deadpool or the first Punisher. Like
Yeah, definitely.
I like it.
That's
Peter
good.
Pan, OG Deadpool. Let's go with that.
That's so good.
I'd watch that movie for sure.
Oh, 100. I mean, you know, Disney owns both of those, so why not?
It's Ryan Reynolds playing.
Oh yes. Oh please. I don't know how they can make that work, but please.
So good. That'd be an
No,
interesting
no.
watch.
Make Ryan Reynolds Captain Hook, so we still have the
Ooh.
voice in there, but they don't have to figure out how to kid him down.
This is true.
I
Actually,
feel like
that'd
Tom
be good.
Holland would be a good Peter Pan.
Oh my
I think he was
God.
he was rumored for it, I think.
Was he?
I think so.
Interesting.
Wait, I'm Googling.
It's not just because I love him as an actor, but
Because it says Yara Shahidi will star in Disney's Peter Pan live action, and I'm trying to figure out if she's
Oh.
Peter Pan.
No. I did. I think I saw that. I think she's Tinkerbell.
Oh my God, that's spectacular.
Mhm.
I think I did see that. Again, like scrolling through Facebook, so who knows the accuracy of it, but I think I did see that.
Jude Law playing Captain Hook.
Okay, I'm into that.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd be down with that. I love Jude.
Alexander Maloney?
He has no picture. I'm on Internet Movie
I'm
Database
like,
as well.
who dat?
Got not a lot of. He's got 5 credits, and Peter Pan is one of them.
You know,
Every so often when you're like, who dat? And then they are, and you're like, oh, well, then I was not expecting that to be as great as it. Oh, he's kind of cute.
Oh, he's so cute.
Let me see
He's
a
just
picture.
a nugget.
Let's see, Emily.
Oh, he's going to be a great Peter Pan. Look at how cute he is.
Oh,
How old is he?
sweetheart.
He's a nugget.
Sweetheart.
He's
I love the
12.
idea of all these people listening to us going, I can't see him.
For those
Y'all?
of you listening, just Google him.
Yeah, he's only
Alexander
12.
Maloney is adorable, and I need this in my life. It looks great.
Aw.
But you know, it's funny. I was just watching the live action Lady and the Tramp talking about updating these, and my favorite part of it is that Darling is black.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just were like, yeah, we decided this is how the 1910s should have been, so this is fine.
I haven't seen it.
It's on Disney Plus, and I haven't even seen all of it. I just started it because I finished the animated version today as well. I was like, you know what I need to do? Watch more of this.
Yeah, I thought it was a good version of the movie. It told the story, right? So it was great. I loved it.
You know, I might be one of those few hardcore Disney fans that really does enjoy the live action versions that they've done so far. With maybe the exception, I really didn't like the Jungle Book, but
You know what? Me
uh,
neither.
but for the most part, like
up.
I kind of went in and was like, I'm going to look at this and try to not put my childhood into this movie and just see how I like this as a movie without worrying about how I like the cartoon at the same time. And that's how I advise everyone to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that definitely helps with the live action ones. I've definitely gone into live action Disney movies and been wholly disappointed.
Yeah. Like, don't go in expecting like Robin Williams. That is a terrible, terrible idea.
Oh, yeah.
No.
But
just
Will Smith did
don't.
do a good job with.
Wow, I really
with
need to catch up on
Aladdin.
my live action
Okay.
Disney movies.
Okay, so we're not going to talk about that anymore.
I was going to say my favorite thing about the Will Smith playing the genie thing before we get off it and go back to Peter Pan, I swear, is that if you go and watch Robin Williams' acceptance speech when he got like a special acceptance a special award for being the genie from somewhere, but he tells this joke and they pan into the audience to watch them all laugh, and the first person they show is Will Smith
Oh.
laughing at this joke, and I was like, it's the perfect encapsulation of the genies right here. And
That's so cool.
it's really great. Anyway, back to Peter Pan.
Anyway,
I never stay on topic. It's a thing.
neither do I. So it's fine. We understand.
Just meander through the idea of a movie. But yeah, I really enjoy the concept of Peter Pan never wanting to grow up, but also have forgotten everything. And I wondered as I was watching it if Neverland actually makes you forget, because they have that moment. They've been there for less than a day where Michael's like, was our mother furry with floppy ears? And I'm like,
Yeah, I think definitely in the book they mentioned something about like Michael having forgotten their parents completely, and John is starting to slip, and Wendy's really the only one that like is kind of trying to put them back on track type of a thing, being like, no, we're not staying here forever. You guys know that, right? Like we have to go home at some point.
I wonder if in Neverland they just forget the bad things, because Nana was something that was good for them. I wonder if them forgetting their mother and their father, it's because they weren't really there, if that makes any sense. They were there, but they weren't there as much as Nana was taking care of them.
and like, I don't blame them for wanting to forget their father. Their father was kind of something. But like their mom seems okay. She's like, oh yes, Peter Pan. That sounds like a lovely story.
Yeah. And I keep on referencing the book just because, like, I think it's interesting to always compare it to like source material. But in the book, what's interesting that they kind of deviate from in the movie is that Nana was a stray, and the only reason they have Nana as their nursemaid is because the Darlings are actually supposed to be like super poor, and like so they couldn't afford like a human nursemaid, so they have this stray dog, which I think is interesting to think about, just the difference of like the rich kids going off to Neverland as opposed to like the poor kids.
That's a really good point. But it does kind of make a lot more sense about why George gets so upset about the kids taking his cufflinks and drawing on his shirt front. Like if you kind of look at that from the perspective of maybe he doesn't have the money to replace that shirt front in the movie, maybe that could explain a little bit about it.
Yeah, why he's so angry. Yeah, for sure.
And also I would like a dog that cleans my house, and I want to know where to get one.
Oh, the dream.
That would be so good.
The dream.
Right?
It'd be great. Oh, and I was telling my husband with Tinkerbell, I was like, she was by far the sexiest thing that Disney had ever drawn. Like she's admiring herself in that mirror, and I was like, okay, we went from maybe we'll show some ankle to this.
Yeah, they made a huge jump with Tinkerbell for sure.
Where did she come from?
There's I think it was in the Internet Movie Database trivia as well that the model for Tinkerbell is actually one of the voices for one of the mermaids, I think.
That's
It's
right.
something like it was like always rumored that like Marilyn Monroe was going to be the model or was the model for Tinkerbell, but it was actually this other actress whose name escapes me right now.
I put it in the original, in the actual episode. I talk about her. There's some really cool pictures of her acting that out, though. Like if you've ever seen the picture of her stuck in the lock, it's adorable.
Oh,
And then we have Captain Hook, who is, well, I think he has like PTSD from having his hand eaten by a crocodile, but I also don't blame him.
yeah.
Uh,
Peter Pan was just not a good person, I think. Cutting off Hook's hand.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why Hook hates him, right?
yeah, pretty much. He fed his hand to a crocodile that will never stop like stalking him because he's tasted his flesh. And I'm like, and that's one of my favorite lines from the movie is, "Oh, cutting off your hand was just a bit of fun, Captain." I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, it's a lot.
And that ties up for we were only trying to drown her.
Yeah.
It's a lot of very serious things are just it's just fun for Peter Pan, but I guess that makes sense because he's a kid.
Mm-hmm. And it all goes back to Peter Pan not being like being kind of the villain of the original villain of the story, I think.
Yeah, he's something. That's something like this got a G rating. And I kind of sit there on some of these and go, I think nowadays they might be like adult themes may apply.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
I think one of the most adult moments is where that pirate singing about how a pirate's life is great, but it's short, and then Hook shoots him.
Yeah, like
Right.
immediately after you meet Hook, he kills someone, which is super aggressive and very
Super
villainous.
dark. Super
It
dark.
is like, and the kids live in the hangman's tree.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that showed up, and I was like, I don't remember that at all. Oh my god.
Also, can we never talk about how it got its name? Thank you.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
I'm
I
just-
don't want to know.
I don't. I like how one of them like uses the noose as a swing, and I'm like, could we? No.
Right.
It's
A lot of like little details that when you're a kid, you don't notice them, but when you're an adult, you're like, "Oh, that's a choice." I don't know if that was a good choice.
Was a choice that you
was-
made, though.
It was definitely a choice.
You just have to wonder about it. There's so much to talk about in the movie, and that's what's so hard is like there are mermaids that try to kill her, and then there's Tiger Lily who might I thought Tiger Lily was the most beautiful thing in the world when I was a
Oh
kid.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I loved her so much. Now
Oh,
I
me
look at it, I'm
too.
like, oh, she's a little problematic in and of herself. Cool.
Yeah.
And then
Mhm.
there's, oh, we forgot to rescue Tiger Lily when she's almost drowning.
Right.
You're right. Oh my
Oops.
god. I find that like you think about Peter Pan and like it's oh yeah, the darling kids, they go to Neverland, there's a fight with Captain Hook, and then they go back, but like you watch it again and there's like, no, they go to Neverland and then there's also the mermaids and everything else. And there's so much more. It's not just a trip, not just like the trip there and back, which I always forget about all the stuff in the middle.
I think it's that I've watched the musical so many times that I remembered the part where they're like trying to fly and they fail, and then they try to fly and they fail, and I think that's all from like the musical, the stage version. And I remember it in the musical, and I was like, oh no, they just flew out the window. That was simple.
They just go. Yeah, in the stage
Yeah.
show, the scene even the scene just before the boys wake up, it's just Peter and Wendy. Is so long. Like there's so much exposition in the beginning, which is it's always funny. I think Disney does a really good job of like skipping the exposition at the beginning or like just condensing it. So that it gets right to the action. Like the same as like much more recent of a movie like Treasure Planet. I saw like the play Treasure Island and it took like a half an hour for them to get to the ship. Like, and you watch Treasure Planet and it's like bang, the inn is on fire and they're on the ship. Done, ready, into the action. So I think that like Disney has always done a really good job at getting to the action quickly, but like still also getting the exposition in there.
That I thought it was really interesting. He does really good with the exposition in the middle, and then he's like, the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it just ends so quickly.
Yeah.
And the children returned home, and nothing was ever wrong, and the end.
Yep.
I did have some really good big questions that I couldn't find answers to about the importance of Wendy leaving the nursery. It seemed like such a big deal.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, she's like 13 or 14. That seems logical. And I couldn't figure out, I kind of theorized maybe this was the discussion of whether she was about to go through puberty or something like that. And of course, being the 1900s, her father got to choose when that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the first moments of, oh no, I don't remember this, is when Peter sticks his foot out to Wendy and is like, get on with it, girl. I was like, pardon
Yeah,
you.
girls
Sit
talk too
down.
much. Yes,
How dare
girls
you.
talk too much. That whole scene, I was like, oh, okay, cool.
But Wendy, everyone thinks I'm wonderful. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, Peter is
he
little
had
full
a
of himself.
huge ego for sure.
Yeah. He had an ego the size of Neverland times 3 or something. Yeah, he was something. Well, Emily and Amanda, thank you so much for joining me today and talking about everything Peter Pan.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
And why don't you tell everyone where they can find your podcast and when it starts up?
Yeah, so we've got, oh my gosh, how many episodes do we
We
have
have,
out
like,
now? I don't even
11?
know.
11, 12?
Yeah, I think 11. I think by the time this goes out, we'll have 12 out. You can find us on all podcast platforms. It's Legends, a Superhero Story. Or you can check out our website, which is matchplaygames.ca. That's the company that will be publishing the rulebook. And all of our information is up there as well, or social media at the Legends Cast.
I really, really appreciate y'all joining me today. And you are welcome to come talk about any potential superhero, Disney villains / hero at any time you'd like. And it's been a great time. Guest episodes, when available, will drop into your feed on Thursdays after the main episode about that movie is scheduled. Make sure you don't miss a single guest episode by hitting the subscribe button on wherever you're getting your podcasts right now. You can also get updates by following me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under the username OofMyChildhood. A transcript of this episode will be available on my website, and if you check my YouTube channel, you'll find captioned videos. I do my best to provide a transcript and video as soon as this episode is published, but if this one isn't available yet, check my website for updates and a link to the appropriate video. My theme music was composed and played by Sean Rudolph of Let Music Be. For more information on that studio, you can visit their website at letmusic.be or visit my website for an easy link. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you come back each week to discuss Disney through modern eyes. And while you're at it, if you're enjoying yourself, please let your friends know about me. I'd also appreciate a rating and review wherever you're listening to the show. This podcast was recorded with the help of the Craig chatbot and edited by me. I release a new regular episode every Monday through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and many, many other podcatchers. So until next time, keep the magic alive.